Hi there, this lesson is on topic 2.2. We're going to compare decimals today, and we'll be placing decimals in ascending, going up from smallest to largest, or descending, going down from greatest to least. So that's our job for today, decimal comparison. We have some key words in this lesson that are good to know. We have our two symbols, our greater than and our less than symbols. We have vocabulary words that are key words, ascending meaning going up, like going up the stairs, and descending, I always remember it by the D, going down, going maybe from the top floor down to the main floor. And then the equations are where we have to have an equal sign. So we have a statement that's showing equality on both sides of that equal sign. That's our equation. Honestly, I don't really think of the symbols as greater than, less than in terms of the orientation of them. So we have the three symbols, greater than, less than, and equals to. And what I remember, and what I think almost everybody remembers, is that the open side goes towards the larger number. And this is a bit old school, but the Pac-Man is eating the greater number. So I always think, okay, if I've got a 9 over here and a 2 over there, then I'm going to have that open side facing the 9 because he's hungry and he wants to eat the greater number. So greater than, less than symbols, the orientation can be remembered that way. So let's just take a look at a couple numbers to compare on the decimal sides. So if we've got 0.9 and we have 0.5, both of these decimals end up in the same place. They end up in the tenths place. So this is easy to compare because we can compare the value of a 9 compared to the value of a 5 because they're in the same position. And we know that 9 is greater than 5, so therefore the symbol is going to be facing towards the 9, open side of our greater than symbol. If we look at 0.2 and we want to compare this to 0.3, again, we're comparing numbers that are in the tenths place. And so we can simply compare the value of a 2 and a 3. And we know that 3 is greater than 2. So our symbol is going to face in the opposite direction. But what about when we get decimals that are in different places? How can we compare? Which is larger, 0.1 or 0.07? Because we know that 7 is greater than 1, but they're not in the same position. So how do we compare? Well, we compare based on our knowledge of the last lesson, based on the place value. So what we can do is we can say with certainty that as we go out further and further from the decimal point, the numbers are getting smaller and smaller by factors of 10. We're going to be 10 times smaller every position we go. So we're going to be the tenths, the hundredths, the thousandths, the 10,000ths. We're getting smaller. Another way we can look at it is, well, why don't we just make them have equal number of decimal places? And that works very well. So we can take the 0.1 and we can put an extra 0 on there. And then we can compare that to 0.07. And now we have them both going out to the hundredths place, but we can read it like this number is 10 and this number is 7. So we can indeed see that 1/10 is greater than 7/100. And so our symbol is going to be facing towards the 0.1. And again, it's because the hundredths place is far smaller than the tenths place. So a good rule of thumb is make your decimals match. Fill in with zeros, and then look at the numbers as though they are whole numbers, and then you'll be able to successfully compare them on the decimal side. So let's do that now and 2.2a do together. Which one is smaller, 7.09 or 7.2? Let's make them look identical in their place value so that we can be certain which one is greater. So I'm going to add a 0 after the 2, getting me to the hundredths place. We know the 7s are the same, but now let's look. We have a 9 and we have a 20. Now it becomes obvious to us that the 20 is larger. So 7 2/10 is greater than 7 9/100. For number 2, which is smaller, 3 or 3.002, well, again, we can compare them by making the decimals identical if we're not sure. So which one's smaller of these? We see the 3.000, that one has less than 3.002. So 3 is smaller. So our symbol again is going to face towards the greater number, 3 2/2000. And then number 3, which is smaller, 4.06, going to 2 decimal places, or 4.006. Well, let me add a 0 here, and then let me compare. 4 is the same, but if I look on my decimal side, I have 60 here, whereas I just have 6 here. So the 4.006 is smaller than 4.06, and that goes with what we understand, that as you go out in the decimals, your number is getting smaller and smaller. So 4 6/100 is greater than 4 6/1000. When we add zeros to compare the numbers like we did in our last examples, can really help us for ordering numbers that have decimal places. So for this first example, we're going to place the numbers in ascending order. So we're going from lowest to highest. And what we want to do is how they're showing in the book where they make a list. So I'm going to just write it again as though we're doing it for the first time here. So I'm going to take 5.2 and then I'm going to write my second number with the decimal lined up in the same position, 5.023. And my third number, I'll do the same, 5.0032. And my last number, 0.523. And then everywhere that has a blank space, I'm going to fill up with zeros. So I'm going to get everything to 4 decimal places, because then I'll be able to compare very easily the numbers. And I'm going to change my color for that comparison. So I'm going from my lowest number to my highest. Well, I can see right away that my lowest number is the 0 point, because in the whole number side, that's much smaller than the 5. So I'm going to have 0.523. The original number, that's going to come first. And then now I have comparison between all these 5s. So I need to look on my decimal side. Let's take a look. We have 2,000. We have 230. And we have 32. We know that 32 is much smaller than 230 and 2,000. So we're going to go ahead then and take the 5.0032, that's my next smallest. Then my 5.023, that's my next smallest. And the last one, my greatest or highest, is the 5.2. Notice that I added these zeros in to hold the places to make the reading of the numbers easy. But when I wrote my list, I wrote it with the original numbers. So let's go ahead to 2.2b and we're going to do these 2 questions together. Number 1, we're going to place the numbers in ascending order. Ascending means from lowest to highest. I'm going to create the list just like we did in the example, carefully writing the numbers out so that I don't make any mistakes with the copying. So I'm going to write the numbers in a list as I see them, not trying to order them until I've gotten them all written out. And any empty spaces, I'm going to be filling up with zeros. This can get pretty jumbly when you've got so many repeating numbers. So it looks like we're going to 4 decimal places. So I only need to fill up 1 0 right there for that third value. So now I'm going to start to compare the numbers as I see them. And I can use a different color to underline. That is very helpful. So I have 790, 709, 70, 97, and 7090. So we can see our little ones. So I'm going to go back and write them in order from smallest to largest. And my first one is going to be 0.007. That's that one there. That's my smallest. My next number is going to be 0.0097. Next up, I'm comparing, I've got 709 and 790. So it's going to be the 709, 0.0709. I might have to do a bit of wonky writing here. 0.0790. And my greatest decimal is 0.709. 7090. Sorry, that one's, I didn't have to fill up a 0. It had one at the end. Okay, number 2, we're going the opposite way. We're going from descending order. So we're going from greatest to least. Let's write these numbers out. 10.85, 10.085, 1.085, 10.805, and 1.805. Looks like we're going to 3 decimal places, so I just need to fill up the one above, and I'm going to use my strategy. I'm going from greatest to smallest, so the tens are going to be the greatest. Let's compare our tens. We have 850, 85, and 805. So it looks like we're going to have the 850 coming first. So I have 10.85, that's our greatest. Then I've got 10.805, that's our second. 10.085, that's our third. And now we're going to compare the ones because they're our little guys. 1.085, so that's like 85, and then 1.805, that's like 805. So that 805, 1.805 is larger, and my smallest number is 1.085. So now you should be all set to go to exercise 2.2. You're going to be placing numbers in descending or ascending order, and then you're going to be comparing numbers using the greater than, less than, or equal signs.